Seeing as this is a first of a number of pieces of legislation, hopefully, that we're going to see today, I thought I would talk with you a little bit about where we are in the process, if that would be okay. In our discussions at the Ways and Means Committee, I asked a number of questions about the overall spending, some of the typical questions that members might expect to hear as we're putting this together. But at this point, you had mentioned that we really don't have all of those numbers, and so that piece we can come back to later. You don't have anything since then that would...
No, I have not.
So these three current bills, dealing with the first one here, and the other two that we have had go through the Ways, Means, and Rules process. We have these, and we're going to be taking those up now. When do we expect to see the other bills? Do we have a sense of that now?
The short answer is today.
Daylight?
I don't know because I can't see it from here.
All right. If we're going to see all of those today, the intent would be to deal with all of those today and also then require messages from the governor for us to consider any of them?
Yes.
As we are here today starting to pass these bills and consider them, are there negotiations ongoing still with parts of the other pieces or the other bills that we don't have before us?
Yes.
Do we know what the outstanding issues are that are holding us up at this point, or?
I don't know them right now. I've been doing other things, but staff is still working. They probably know.
Do you think there's potential that we might, I know we're here on Thursday, March 31st, is there potential that we might see things late enough that we're going to go into tomorrow before we get all of these bills considered?
With your help, I am positive that we can get it all done by the end of this day.
I'll help as much as I can, but I will say that when we get things, how we're going to be able to review that and get through and certainly have questions answered that need to be asked, we can try to do that, but that certainly may be a challenge.
Yes, it will be.
The bills, if I look at this one and the other two that we're going to consider, there seems to be a number of things the governor had put in or were included in either the Senate or Assembly One House bills, and then they aren't a part of these bills. And the concern would be that we're going to maybe not see any of those things, or maybe that's a good thing, or we might see those in a very untraditional place jammed in with a whole bunch of other issues. Do we know how that's going to proceed?
Yes, we are putting the things that are not in these bills. They're probably, some of them are the ones that they're still negotiating, but I'm positive they will have it ready again for today.
So even though, like the health care bill, which is next, we may see some health care in the education and labor bill, and
yeah, the last bill will probably have all of the bills that we have are not in these three here.
I will, I'm sure, get back to you on when we get some of the other information to talk about some of the overall view, and I look forward to that question. Specifically on this bill that we have before us on the public protection and general government, there is an amount within the workers' compensation reform legislation of $10 million that it says would be used for paid family leave do we have a sense of how that why that $10 million is required and how that money is going to be spent in the 2016-17 budget year?
Well, let's see, the enacted budget includes up to $10 million that would be transferred to the Department of Financial Services to support the cost of implementation of paid family leave. There would be a startup cost to the department related to the administrative functions, including expanding existing oversight of insurance policies to include paid family leave benefits and setting the maximum employee's contribution.
So for the whole process of setting it up, do we see that this is going to require additional state staff, hiring employees, adding to the overall state budget? And is this going to be something that we can expect to see increased costs in future years as well, or is this a one-time expense?
No. The answer is no, no, and no. There were three questions. No.
No. All right. Well, thank you. I'm sure there may be some other questions that individuals have, and certainly, Mr. Chairman, we'll be back a number of times over the next number of hours on the bill, Mr. Speaker.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Mr. Oaks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we sit here today dealing with the first of a number of budget bills, I do have some major concerns. We don't have a financial plan before us. We don't have a spending plan. We can't tell the numbers at the end. It makes it difficult, I think, for us as a body, for individual legislators, to try to make a determination of how is this all going to fit together? Should I be voting for this portion or that? How do we make those determinations? The other thing is, I have to express my deep disappointment as we stand here today. We had an opportunity when we came out of last year with the top legislative leaders convicted of issues and abuse of power, a lot of it that came directly out of situation of a really closed and secretive budget process. And for me, I came into January of 2016 with a great hope that we would have the opportunity, that we did have the opportunity to do things differently as the budget was presented by the governor. It was considered through our hearing process, and then as we got down to the negotiation process of that budget, and I made comments about this is a time that opening it up, having minority as well as majority input, to me, the best ideas, the best decisions I've made in my life or in group ones, it's when you maybe don't include every person in trying to figure that out, but including a wide enough diversity of views so you end up making the best decision. Gee, maybe the answer to solving the problem, and maybe the answer to solving some of the problems that have carried us out this budget process to the last hour as it is going to, and maybe beyond tonight, those ways to solve those problems could have come out of individuals giving perspectives that more reflect the totality and the diversity, the difference across New York State of our people. And so the disappointment is not only were we like it had been in the past and a rerun of the past, instead this year, in the year where we should have been and had the opportunity to do things differently, we're right now in the midst of finishing up the most secretive, the most closed, the least transparent process that I've ever seen. I think that, in the end, doesn't serve the nearly 20 million people of New York, the constituents that each of us represent. It doesn't serve us well. It's something that this year we missed the boat on. But we will go from here and see what other proposals that might be before us, and as we might consider them, I would just ask that as we do that, we also consider that how much better it could have been if we had really changed the process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.